Tell me what I do, although. Shall you get another someone?
Johnny Drille has always been one of the most unique artists in Nigerian music. While most artists chase club hits and viral records, Johnny built his career making folk-inspired music filled with soul, vulnerability, and storytelling. Even when he experimented with Afrobeats, he never lost the emotional depth that made his music special. That is why listening to Before the Morning Light left me with one major concern. Has Johnny Drille started losing his identity? Now, before anyone misunderstands me, this is not a bad album. In fact, it is a very enjoyable listen. The production is polished, the melodies are smooth, and Johnny sounds comfortable throughout the project. But what makes this album interesting is not whether it sounds good. The bigger question is whether it still sounds like Johnny Drille.
Gave you my all, what you want more.
One thing that stood out immediately is how percussion-heavy the album is. This is probably the most rhythm-driven Johnny Drille project we have had so far. The drums are bigger, the grooves are more obvious, and many of the songs feel designed to fit comfortably into today's Afropop landscape. There is nothing wrong with evolving. Every artist should evolve. The issue is that as the album leans more into mainstream Afropop, it sometimes moves away from the emotional intimacy that built Johnny Drille's fanbase in the first place. A song like Mind captures this perfectly. The message is about ignoring negativity, protecting your happiness, and enjoying life regardless of criticism. It is catchy and easy to enjoy, but it lacks the emotional depth that usually makes Johnny's music memorable. And that becomes a recurring theme across the album. A large part of Before the Morning Light is built around love songs. Tracks like You Blown Away, I'm Available, Last Forever, and Know Your all focus on devotion, commitment, and romantic reassurance. The problem is not that they are love songs. Johnny Drille has always made love songs. The problem is that many of them approach love from the same perspective. After a while, the themes start feeling repetitive and the album begins to sound more like a playlist than a carefully structured body of work. For the first time in a Johnny Drille project, I found myself struggling to identify a strong thematic journey from beginning to end. Another thing worth discussing is the influence of mainstream Afropop on the album. Ever since Johnny signed to Maven Records, some fans have worried that his sound could eventually become diluted as he moved closer to the mainstream. For years, that concern felt unnecessary because Johnny managed to balance commercial appeal with artistic identity. But this album is probably the closest he has come to sounding like everyone else. Songs like Angelina featuring Fireboy DML and Over the Moon featuring Tiwa Savage are good songs. The features work, the production sounds great, and the performances are solid. But they don't always feel uniquely Johnny Drille. They often sound like polished Afropop records that happen to feature Johnny rather than songs built entirely around his artistic identity.
Crazy, crazy, what the feeling. Miraculous, what the healing. And do it again.
Thankfully, the album has moments that remind us exactly why Johnny Drille became special in the first place. The standout track for me is What Is This Love featuring Nonso Amadi. This song feels like classic Johnny Drille. Instead of focusing on perfect love, it explores confusion, insecurity, and emotional frustration within a relationship. The songwriting feels more personal, more vulnerable, and more authentic. The chemistry between Johnny and Nonso Amadi is excellent because both artists thrive when dealing with emotional storytelling. Ironically, the best song on the album is also the song that sounds most like the Johnny Drille many people originally fell in love with.
Going back and forth.
Another strong moment is Speak Up featuring Lojay. The song deals with regret, pride, and unresolved feelings after a relationship breaks down. It introduces emotional complexity that many of the album's more straightforward love songs lack. Lojay's contribution also adds another layer of vulnerability to the record, making it one of the most memorable collaborations on the project.
Sober up, I'll speak up, speak up, speak up.
I also enjoyed In Time featuring Angélique Kidjo. The song shifts away from romance and focuses on hope, encouragement, and perseverance. It provides a refreshing change of pace and shows another side of Johnny's songwriting abilities.
You smile. I want you to feel alright. Will you come into light? Nobody gon' fit in yours.
At the end of the day, the biggest issue with Before the Morning Light is not the quality of the music. The biggest issue is identity. Johnny Drille built his reputation as one of Nigeria's finest modern folk and alternative artists. On this album, there are moments where that identity feels less visible than before. The talent is still there. The voice is still there. The songwriting ability is still there. But too often, the album sounds like it is trying to fit into the current Afropop landscape instead of bringing listeners into Johnny Drille's own unique world. That doesn't make the album bad. It simply makes it less distinctive than some of his previous work. For me, Before the Morning Light is a good album with several beautiful moments, but it also raises important questions about where Johnny Drille's music is heading next. Because if he continues down this path, Nigerian music risks losing one of its most important folk-inspired voices. And that would be a much bigger loss than one disappointing album. So, what do you think? Is Johnny Drille evolving as an artist, or is he slowly moving away from the sound that made him special? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more music reviews.
Nobody perfect, oh. No be by who drive Benz, oh.